Part 1. The Whispers Between Stars. The message arrived at Deep Space Monitoring Station Epsilon 9 during the graveyard shift. Lieutenant Patel was the first to notice the anomalous signal, a repeating pattern that didn't match any known communication protocol. It wasn't meant for human ears. Admiral Novak? You need to hear this. Patel's voice crackled through the secure channel, tension evident despite the signal compression. Admiral Josephine Novak had been awake for 36 hours straight. The Terran Defense Network had been on high alert ever since their quantum sensors detected disturbances at the edge of the solar system. Something was coming, something big. Send it through, she ordered, rubbing her temples. The holographic display in her office flickered to life, showing a waveform unlike anything she'd ever seen. The translation matrix worked for nearly 4 minutes before producing anything coherent. When it finally did, the message was brief: flee. The hegemony approaches. Earth is marked. They do not understand what sleeps there. Novak played it again, her weathered face illuminated by the blue glow of the display. 27 years in space defense had taught her to trust her instincts, and every nerve in her body was screaming. Source, she demanded. Unknown, Admiral. But the transmission came from a debris field near Proxima Centauri. Spectral analysis suggests the remnants of a vessel, not of human design. Novak's gaze shifted to the star chart covering her office wall. Proxima Centauri was the closest star system to Earth. Whatever had sent this warning had been close, too close. Wake the Secretary General. Code Black. Within an hour, the 12 members of the Planetary Defense Council gathered in the underground facility beneath Geneva. The holographic representation of the message floated above the center of the table, rotating slowly as if mocking their ignorance. This, hegemony, we have no records of such an entity, Secretary Werner said, his German accent more pronounced under stress. Dr. Larissa Volkov, head of xenoanthropology, leaned forward. Perhaps because they've never encountered us before. Or perhaps because no one has survived to record them. The warning played again. They do not understand what sleeps there. The words hung in the air, ominous and cryptic. What sleeps where? On Earth? Werner asked, looking confused. Admiral Novak exchanged glances with General Saito, the only other person in the room who knew about Project Dormant Guardian. They had both been briefed on the ancient defense system discovered beneath the Antarctic ice sheet 50 years ago, a system not of human origin. We need to prepare for first contact, Novak said carefully. Possibly hostile first contact. With all due respect, Admiral, Director Okafor of Global Intelligence cut in. We can't mobilize global defenses based on a cryptic message from an unknown source. The economic panic alone would. The alarm cut him off. Red lights pulsed throughout the chamber as a technician burst through the doors. Multiple objects detected entering the solar system. Massive energy signatures. They're moving at speeds we've never. The screens around the room flashed with incoming data. 17 objects, each larger than any vessel humans had ever constructed, had just passed Jupiter's orbit. Time to Earth, Novak demanded. At current velocity, 18 hours. The room fell silent. Humanity had achieved remarkable technological progress in the past century, settlements on Mars, mining operations in the asteroid belt, even preliminary work on an interstellar probe, but nothing that could match what was heading their way. Implement contingency Helios, Novak ordered, invoking emergency powers that hadn't been used since the resource wars. And contact Dr. Reeves at Cheyenne Mountain. Tell him to prepare Phase 3. Only General Saito recognized what that meant. His usually stoic expression faltered. Admiral, Phase 3 is theoretical. The genetic triggers haven't been tested outside the lab. We're out of options, General. If that message is accurate, conventional defenses won't matter. As the Council dispersed with their emergency assignments, Novak remained, staring at the approaching fleet's trajectory. The data couldn't be right. The vessels weren't just heading to Earth, they were positioning themselves along very specific geomagnetic lines. They knew something about Earth that even humanity didn't fully understand. In her private quarters, Novak accessed the most classified files in the Terran Defense Network's database. Files that detailed the discovery in 1997 of an artificial structure beneath the Antarctic ice, a structure estimated to be over 100,000 years old. Inside, they'd found a single chamber containing what appeared to be a control system and a message in no known language. Decades of research had yielded only fragments of understanding, but one thing became clear. Earth had been modified long ago. The planet's magnetic field, its unusually large moon, even aspects of human evolution, all showed signs of engineered purpose. Earth wasn't just a planet. It was a weapon, or a shield, maybe both. And now something called the hegemony was coming to claim it. Novak's secure terminal chimed. Dr. Hammond Reeves, the brilliant and controversial head of the Dormant Guardian project, appeared on screen. His eyes were bloodshot, his silver hair disheveled. "Tell me you're not serious about Phase 3, he said without preamble. "I'm authorizing full deployment, Hammond. All test subjects." Reeves ran a hand through his hair. "Josephine, we're talking about fundamentally altering human biology on a planetary scale. The changes will be irreversible. And if we don't?" The scientist was quiet for a moment. "Then whatever's coming takes Earth, and humanity becomes just another footnote in galactic history." Novak nodded grimly. "Prepare your team. When the hegemony arrives, I want humanity ready to show them exactly what sleeps here." As she ended the call, Novak looked out her window at the night sky. Somewhere up there, an armada was approaching an empire that had conquered who knew how many worlds. But they had never encountered Earth. They had never faced humans. And if Dr. Reeves was right about what lurked in human DNA, what had been placed there eons ago by whoever built that Antarctic structure, then the hegemony was about to discover that Earth wasn't prey. It was a predator that had been patiently waiting to be awakened. Part 2. First Contact Protocol. Dr. Hammond Reeves stood in the heart of the Cheyenne Mountain complex, surrounded by screens displaying data that would terrify the general public if they ever saw it. The incoming hegemony fleet had decelerated dramatically upon reaching Mars' orbit, as if studying the red planet's abandoned human outposts. This gave Earth precious additional hours, but Hammond knew it wouldn't be enough. "Activation sequence initiated," announced Dr. Prisha Sharma, his second-in-command. Her fingers flew across the quantum interface as she authorized the deployment of Phase 3. Genetic trigger packets dispersing through global water systems in 30 minutes. Hammond nodded grimly. "And atmospheric distribution?" "Nanite carriers will reach optimal saturation within 4 hours," replied Colonel Takashi Yamamoto, the military liaison to Project Dormant Guardian. "Every human on Earth will be exposed." The weight of what they were about to do pressed down on Hammond's shoulders. For 30 years, he had studied the alien genetic markers embedded within human DNA, dormant sequences that defied evolutionary logic. When activated, these sequences would transform humanity into something else, something that the creators of the Antarctic structure had designed as a fail-safe. "Any word from the diplomatic team?" Hammond asked, though he already knew the answer. Colonel Yamamoto shook his head. "The hegemony isn't responding to any transmission. They've established orbital positions above our major geomagnetic nodes, exactly as you predicted. On the main screen, 17 massive vessels positioned themselves in a precise pattern around Earth. Each ship was a city-sized behemoth of dark metal and pulsing energy fields. Smaller craft began to deploy from their hulls, descending towards specific locations: Antarctica, the Bermuda Triangle, Mount Shasta, the Giza Plateau, Uru in Australia, Lake Baikal in Russia, and other sites long associated with Earth's magnetic anomalies. Hammond turned to Dr. Sharma. "They're heading for all 12 activation points. They know about the system." "How is that possible?" "We only discovered the Antarctic hub in 1997. "Because they've seen this before," Hammond said quietly. The warning message was right. Earth is marked. We're not the first world with this defense system. The implications were staggering. If the hegemony knew about the dormant technology beneath Earth's surface, they might also know how to neutralize it. Humanity's last hope might already be compromised. "We need to accelerate the timeline," Hammond decided. "Begin Phase 3 now, before they can establish ground control." Colonel Yamamoto looked alarmed. "Sir, we haven't fully mapped the psychological side effects of rapid activation. We plan for a gradual." "We don't have time for gradual," Hammond cut him off. "If they secure even 3 of the nodal points, they can suppress the entire system." Dr. Sharma hesitated only briefly before entering the command sequence. Phase 3 acceleration protocol engaged. Nanite dispersal at maximum density. Hammond watched as the distribution map lit up across the global monitoring system. Within minutes, invisible clouds of programmed biomolecular activators would spread through Earth's atmosphere, triggering the dormant genetic sequences in every human being. No one knew exactly what would happen next. The ancient builders had left instructions of a sort, symbolic representations carved into the walls of the Antarctic chamber. The images showed humanoid figures transforming, developing abilities beyond normal physics. Telepathy, perhaps? Or something even more profound? Hammond's secure terminal chimed. Admiral Novak's face appeared, her expression grim. They've made plan of fall at the Antarctic site, she reported. Our forces there went dark 3 minutes ago. And the other sites? We're holding at Giza and Lake Baikal, but losing ground everywhere else. These aren't conventional forces, Hammond. The hegemony foot soldiers, if you can call them that, they're unlike anything we've seen. Partially mechanical, partially. I don't even know. They're adapting to our weapons in real time. Hammond swallowed hard. The Phase 3 activation has begun. We need to hold them off for at least an hour while the changes take effect. An hour might be optimistic, Novak replied. We just lost contact with the lunar defense platform. The hegemony is systematically eliminating our orbital capabilities. As if confirming her words, the facility lights flickered. Several monitoring screens went dark as external satellites failed. They're isolating us, Colonel Yamamoto observed, cutting off communications node by node. Hammond turned to the central chamber where the heart of Project Dormant Guardian lay, a replica of the control interface found in Antarctica. The device was not human technology. It was a smooth, opalescent structure that responded to specific genetic signatures. For decades, only Hammond and a few others with high compatibility markers could activate it. But now, as Phase 3 spread across the globe, that would change. We need a direct link to the Antarctic hub, Hammond said. If we can reactivate the primary system before the hegemony disables it completely. The facility shook violently. Dust fell from the ceiling as warning alarms blared. Breach in Sector 7, someone shouted. Unknown entities penetrating the mountain. Hammond exchanged looks with Dr. Sharma. They had prepared for this possibility that the hegemony would target key human leadership nodes. Cheyenne Mountain housed not just Project Dormant Guardian, but the Central Command for North American Defense. Initiate Protocol Omega, Hammond ordered. Dr. Sharma, you know what to do. She nodded grimly, moving to a sealed compartment at the back of the lab. Inside was a single injection device, a last resort if the facility was compromised. The accelerated genetic trigger concentrated 1,000 times beyond the global dose. Colonel, you need to get the Admiral to backup site Echo, Hammond continued. The system needs at least one high-level operator to survive. Before Yamamoto could respond, the blast doors to the main lab began to glow red, then white-hot. Something on the other side was cutting through reinforced steel designed to withstand nuclear attacks. They're here, Hammond said quietly. The doors exploded inward. Through the smoke emerged figures that seemed more machine than biological, sleek, silvery bodies with multiple limbs and faceplates that shifted and reconfigured continuously. Their movements were unnaturally fluid, as if gravity affected them differently. Hammond felt a pressure in his mind, a probing, alien presence. The dominant species is primitive, came a voice that wasn't really a voice, more like thoughts being forced into his consciousness. Neural capacity insufficient for interface activation. Terminate and proceed to primary hub. The leading figure raised an appendage that morphed into something like a weapon. Hammond closed his eyes, waiting for the end. Instead, he heard Dr. Sharma gasp. When he looked up, he saw the impossible. The hegemony soldiers had frozen in place, their faceplates displaying what could only be described as confusion. Behind them stood General Saito, who had been stationed at a different facility entirely. But there was something different about him now. His eyes glowed with an inner light, and the air around him seemed to distort. Phase 3 is working, Hammond whispered in awe. General Saito spoke, his voice resonating with harmonic overtones. Earth defends its own. The awakening has begun. Part 3. The Awakening Below. General Hiroshi Saito had never believed in miracles. 30 years of military service had taught him that victory came through strategy, preparation, and occasionally, brutal sacrifice. Yet what flowed through his veins now defied rational explanation. The Phase 3 activation had reached him first, perhaps because he had been one of the original test subjects years ago. The dormant genetic markers in his DNA had fully awakened, connecting him to something ancient and vast beneath the Earth's crust. Secure the lab, Saito ordered, his voice carrying strange harmonics that made the air vibrate. The hegemony soldiers remained frozen, caught in what appeared to be a localized time distortion field that Saito had somehow generated instinctively. Dr. Reeves stared at him in astonishment. The theoretical capabilities. They're manifesting already. Not just in me, Saito replied. Across the globe, The awakening is spreading faster than projected. The hegemony's presence is acting as a catalyst. He closed his eyes briefly, accessing awareness that stretched far beyond the confines of his physical body. Through this expanded consciousness, he could sense similar awakenings occurring globally. Ordinary humans suddenly developing extraordinary abilities as their dormant genetic potential activated. Antarctica is the key, Saito said, opening his eyes. The primary control hub is under heavy assault. If it falls, the entire defense network will be compromised. Dr. Sharma approached cautiously. The Antarctic facility is 10,000 miles away. Even if we could get past the hegemony blockade. Distance is becoming less relevant, Saito interrupted. He extended his hand toward the opalescent control interface in the center of the lab. The alien device responded immediately, its surface rippling like liquid metal before projecting a three-dimensional map of Earth with glowing nodal points. The ancient builders created a network, Saito explained, his knowledge coming from somewhere beyond his own memories. 12 major nodes connected by energy pathways that follow Earth's magnetic field lines. They form a transportation system. Dr. Reeves looked skeptical. A transportation system? Like some kind of teleportation network? More like dimensional folding, Saito replied. And this facility sits directly above a minor junction point. Colonel Yamamoto, who had been securing the perimeter, returned with alarming news. More hegemony forces inbound. We have maybe 10 minutes before they overwhelm our position. Saito nodded grimly. Enough time. Dr. Reeves, I need you to come with me to Antarctica. Your genetic signature is required to fully activate the primary hub. And the rest of us? Dr. Sharma asked. Disperse to the secondary nodes. Each activation point needs a human with awakened genes to complete the defense protocol. Saito gestured to the map, highlighting locations in Egypt, Russia, Australia, and other strategic points around the world. The system was designed for multiple operators working in concert. As they prepared for what seemed like an impossible mission, the facility's communication system suddenly crackled to life. Admiral Novak's voice came through, strained but determined. This is a global broadcast to all military and civilian personnel. The hegemony forces have established footholds on all 7 continents. Conventional weapons are proving ineffective. If you are experiencing changes, do not resist them. These abilities are humanity's evolutionary heritage, intentionally suppressed until now. A distant explosion rocked the facility. We need to move, Saito urged. The node activation sequence must be completed before the hegemony reaches critical control points. He approached the alien interface, placing both hands on its smooth surface. The material responded to his touch, becoming semi-transparent and revealing complex geometric patterns flowing within. As Saito concentrated, a doorway of light began to form beside the device, a portal that seemed to bend the very fabric of reality. Antarctica, he said simply, and the portal's surface rippled to reveal a glimpse of the southern facility, or what remained of it. Through the dimensional window, they could see the massive chamber housing Earth's primary defense hub. Hegemony soldiers swarmed around a central pedestal of the same opalescent material as their smaller interface. They haven't been able to activate it, Dr. Reeves observed. They lack the genetic keys. Which is why they're here in force, Saito replied. They're trying to destroy what they cannot control. He turned to the others. Dr. Sharma, I'm sending you to Giza. Colonel Yamamoto, you'll take Lake Baikal. The system will guide you to the other nodes as you make contact with them. Before they could respond, the facility shook again, this time more violently. The hegemony reinforcements had arrived. Go. Saito commanded, his voice resonating with authority beyond his military rank. Dr. Sharma stepped through a portal first, vanishing in a flash of blue-white light. Colonel Yamamoto hesitated only briefly before following suit, his destination a shimmering green pathway. As more portals opened around the lab, the remaining personnel moved to their assigned locations. Within moments, only Saito and Dr. Reeves remained. What happens when all 12 nodes activate? Reeves asked quietly. Saito's expression was grim. According to the ancient records, Earth itself becomes weaponized. The planetary defense system was designed as a last resort, a countermeasure against forces that threatened multiple worlds. And the cost? Unknown. But I suspect it's why these abilities were embedded in our DNA rather than immediately expressed. They come with a price. The lab doors began to buckle as new hegemony forces attacked from outside. Their frozen comrades still stood motionless, caught in Sato's time distortion. We need to go, Saito said, gesturing toward the Antarctic portal. As they stepped through, the dimensional passage collapsed behind them. The sensation was disorienting, not movement through space, but rather space folding around them. One moment they were in Colorado, the next standing in the ancient chamber beneath Antarctic ice. The scene was chaos. Human defenders, some military, some civilian scientists, fought desperately against hegemony forces. But something had changed. Many of the humans now displayed abilities similar to Sato's, generating energy shields, moving with impossible speed, even manipulating the very elements around them. The awakening is progressing faster than anticipated, Dr. Reeves noted, ducking behind a fallen column. Saito nodded, extending his awareness. The other nodes are coming online. Dr. Sharma has reached Giza. Yamamoto is at Baikal. Others are activating in sequence. At the center of the chamber stood the primary control hub, a massive version of the interface they had used in Cheyenne Mountain. Its surface pulsed with internal light, responding to the nearby awakened humans even as the hegemony tried desperately to destroy it. "We need to reach the central pedestal," Saito said. "Once all 12 nodes synchronize, the full defense system will activate." Dr. Reeves looked at the battlefield, separating them from their goal. "And then what?" Saito met his gaze with eyes that now glowed with ancient power. "Then humanity shows the hegemony why Earth was marked as dangerous territory." They moved forward into the fray. As beneath their feet, the oldest weapon in the solar system began to stir from its long dormancy. Part 4. The Nature of Humanity. High Marshal Crixus of the hegemony stood on the command deck of the flagship Inevitable Conquest, watching with growing concern as reports flooded in from ground teams across the primitive planet. Something was wrong. Very wrong. "Status report," he demanded, his four eyes narrowing at the holographic display. Subcommander Vetrix approached cautiously. In 3 centuries of service to the hegemony, Crixus had never seen the veteran warrior look afraid. "High Marshal, our forces at the primary control hub are encountering resistance beyond projected parameters." "Elaborate." Crixus's voice was cold. "The indigenous species, these humans, they're changing." Vetrix activated a visual feed from Antarctica. The footage showed hegemony soldiers being overwhelmed not by superior technology, but by humans displaying impossible abilities, generating energy fields, moving at enhanced speeds, even manipulating matter at a molecular level. "Impossible," Crixus murmured. "Our intelligence indicated a pre-ascension species. Primitive. Limited. It appears they were dormant, sir. Something activated them." Crixus felt a chill run through his exoskeleton. He had seen this pattern before, centuries ago, when the hegemony had attempted to claim a small world in the Cygnus Arm. That planet, too, had housed a defense system left by the ancients, the mysterious precursor race that had seeded defensive technologies throughout the galaxy. But the Cygnus world had been uninhabited. Earth was different. Here, the ancients had integrated their defense directly into the dominant species. "This explains the warning we intercepted," Crixus said quietly. "The Valturi ship trying to warn us off." Vetrix seemed surprised. "You intercepted a warning and still proceeded with invasion?" "The hegemony does not yield to threats or legends," Crixus replied, though his conviction was wavering. "Begin orbital bombardment of all 12 nodal points. If we cannot claim this world's resources, we will ensure no one else does either." Before Vetrix could acknowledge the order, the ship's AI interrupted with a priority alert. "High Marshal, gravitational anomalies detected at all nodal points. Dimensional instabilities forming." The main view screen shifted to display the Antarctic facility. At its center, a human male with glowing eyes stood before the primary control hub, General Saito, though Crixus didn't know his name. Beside him was an older human, his hands pressed against the ancient technology. "Maximum magnification," Crixus ordered, leaning forward. "What are they doing?" The answer came not from his crew, but from his own mind, a voice that wasn't a voice, pushing into his consciousness. "You were warned." Crixus staggered, clutching his head. Around him, other hegemony officers did the same. The voice continued, somehow speaking in perfect hegemony high speech despite coming from a human. "Earth is not what you thought. We are not what you thought. The ancients didn't just leave a weapon here, they left a legacy." On the screen, all 12 nodal points around the planet glowed with increasing intensity. The energy readings were off the charts, the power signature unlike anything in the hegemony database. "Initiate emergency fold space jump," Crixus commanded. "Get us out of this system." Unable to comply, the ship's AI responded. Spatial geometry is being altered. Fold space technology inoperative. For the first time in his long life, Crixus felt true fear. The hegemony had conquered 8 galaxies through superior force and technology. They had faced resistance, even coordinated defense from advanced civilizations. But nothing like this, a planet that fought back, a species transforming before their eyes into something beyond their understanding. On Earth, Dr. Hammond Reeves felt power surge through him as he completed the activation sequence. The Antarctic hub responded to his genetic signature, connecting with all 11 other nodes simultaneously. Around the globe, awakened humans at each location experienced the same phenomenon, becoming conduits for energies that transcended conventional physics. "It's working," Hammond gasped, the strain evident in his voice. "The full network is coming online." General Saito nodded, his consciousness now expanded to perceive the entire planetary defense grid. Through this heightened awareness, he could sense every hegemony ship in orbit, every soldier on the ground. More importantly, he could feel the collective consciousness of humanity awakening, billions of minds suddenly linked by something more profound than technology. "This is what they feared," Saito said. "Not our weapons, not our technology. They feared what we could become." The control hub pulsed with blinding light as the final synchronization completed. Earth's magnetic field began to fluctuate wildly, creating aurora displays visible even in daylight across the globe. Deep beneath the surface, ancient machinery that had lain dormant for eons hummed to life. In orbit, High Marshal Crixus watched in horror as Earth itself seemed to transform. The planet's atmosphere began to glow with geometric patterns, massive symbols appearing and disappearing across its surface. "What is happening?" he demanded of anyone who could answer. A junior science officer, still reeling from the psychic intrusion, managed to respond. "High Marshal, the planet's electromagnetic field is being weaponized. It's generating a reality distortion field." "Impossible. No species has mastered fifth-dimensional manipulation." "These aren't just any species," came a voice from behind him. Crixus turned to find a human standing on his command deck. A human who had not been there seconds before. It was General Saito, somehow projecting his presence across space. "The ancients didn't just leave us a defense system," Saito continued, his form shimmering slightly. "They left us their evolutionary potential. Humanity was designed as a failsafe, a species that could remain dormant until needed, then rapidly evolve to counter any threat." Crixus drew his ceremonial blade, a useless gesture against what was clearly not a physical presence. "The hegemony has faced ancient technology before. We have overcome it." Saito smiled sadly. "Not like this. You've faced their weapons, their shields, their automated systems. But you've never faced their successors." Around Earth, the hegemony fleet found itself caught in a gravitational web. Ships that tried to flee found space itself warped around them, folding back on itself to contain them. In the Antarctic chamber, Dr. Hammond Reeves watched the process through his newly expanded awareness. "We're not destroying them," he realized. "We're containing them." "Destruction wasn't the purpose," Saito replied. "Defense was. Protection, not just of Earth, but of all worlds threatened by empire." As the last hegemony vessel was secured in the dimensional pocket created by Earth's defense system, a profound silence fell across global communications. Then, gradually, reports began to flow in from around the world. The changes in humanity weren't reversing. If anything, they were stabilizing, becoming permanent. Part 5. Evolution's Answer. 3 months after what became known as the hegemony incursion, Director Eliza Winters stood at the window of the newly formed Terran Unification Council headquarters in Geneva. Below, crowds gathered in the plaza, many displaying abilities that would have seemed miraculous before the awakening. A child levitated colorful spheres of water for a delighted audience. An elderly man healed a young woman's broken arm with just a touch. Everywhere, humanity explored its new potential with both wonder and responsibility. "The transition is proceeding faster than expected," Admiral Novak said, joining Winters at the window. 97% of the global population has now expressed some form of enhanced ability. "And the hegemony fleet?" Winters asked. "Still contained within the fold space pocket. Dr. Reeves believes we can maintain the containment indefinitely." Winters nodded, her silver hair catching the afternoon light. As the former head of the United Nations Security Council, She had been uniquely positioned to help coordinate the global response to humanity's sudden evolution. Now, as director of the Unification Council, she faced an even greater challenge, guiding a transformed species toward its new destiny. The ancient archives in Antarctica have yielded more information, Novak continued. It seems Earth wasn't the only world seeded with dormant potential. There are others out there, worlds where life was engineered with similar failsafes. Allies, perhaps, Winters mused. Or at least, kindred species. General Saito entered the chamber, followed by Dr. Reeves. Both men had changed profoundly since the activation. Sato's abilities had stabilized around spatial manipulation and enhanced cognition, while Reeves had developed an unprecedented capacity for genetic understanding, reading, and even rewriting DNA with his thoughts alone. The interstellar communication array is online, Saito announced. We're ready to broadcast. Winters took a deep breath. This would be humanity's first intentional message to the cosmos since their transformation, a declaration not just of existence, but of purpose. The hegemony's databases revealed much about the galactic community, Reeves added. There are hundreds of worlds suffering under their rule, and dozens of species on the verge of extinction due to their expansion. And now we have the means to help them, Winters said. She moved to the central platform where a crystalline communication device, reverse-engineered from ancient technology, awaited her touch. The four of them gathered around the device, each placing a hand on its surface. Their combined consciousness, amplified by their awakened abilities, flowed into the transmitter. The message they sent was not just words, but understanding, a complex packet of information and intent that only awakened minds could fully comprehend. To all sentient beings under hegemony oppression, Earth stands with you. The ancient protections have awakened. You are not alone. As the message propagated outward at speeds that defied conventional physics, Winters felt something stir in response, distant minds reaching back, connecting across the vast gulfs between stars. They're answering, she whispered in awe. Dozens of worlds, hundreds of minds. On screens around the chamber, signals began to appear, transmissions from planets thought subjugated or destroyed. The hegemony's grip had not been as absolute as they claimed. Other ancient seedbeds had survived, other species had maintained their dormant potential. This changes everything, Admiral Novak said quietly. We're not just defending Earth anymore. Saito nodded. We're continuing the ancients' work, maintaining balance in the galaxy, preventing any single power from dominating all others. Outside, the sun began to set over Geneva, casting long shadows across the transformed Earth. Humanity had faced extinction and instead found transcendence. The warning that had reached them just in time, Earth is marked, had proven true, but not in the way the messenger feared. Earth wasn't marked for destruction. It was marked for renewal, a renewal that would now spread throughout the stars, awakening other worlds from their long dormancy to create a new balance in the cosmos. As night fell, the stars seemed brighter somehow, closer, more accessible. And among them, the future of humanity awaited.